Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I said in the last video that there was a big news story coming out of Inverclyde, and there is, and this is it. For Inverclyde Council last night voted to have a council tax rise. They too have joined Argyll in Bute in sticking two fingers up to Shona Robison and Yousaf and saying you can take your council tax freeze and shove it where the sun don't shine. They're not going to be dictated to. They're not going to be bullied. They are going to serve the people of their constituencies and say, look, we know we have to provide these services. Unfortunately, what Shona Robison doing is not helping. It humiliates Humza because he said that everyone will get this council tax rise. He was saying that, but of course he does not have that authority. Shona Robison has threatened and, sort of bullied people. If you don't do this, you don't get money. It's not her money, some of it at least. It's not her money to withhold. There will be court actions. She will lose. And in a further humiliation, she will have to hand over the cash, part of that 45 million that was given to her for that purpose. It's going to be an interesting period. Not all councils have declared yet. There may be more. And now that there's two, I think it'll be easier for another council to go, yeah, us too. And then another one. And who knows, some councils may even go back and change their minds. We'll have to wait and see. Let's take a look at this to see why Shona Robison and Yousaf have yet again been humiliated for being the impotent, powerless, useless people they are. Here goes. So, SNP council tax freeze in disarray after second local authority backs rise. Good on Inverclyde. Now, just before we get into this, do you remember yesterday or day before yesterday? Was it Wednesday? I did the story about Stephen McCabe, who is the leader of Inverclyde. He's one of those that wrote to Michael Gove to say, please do not give money that you intend for people to the SNP, because it then never goes to the people for whom it is intended. If you are giving £45 million for social care, for adult social care, please, for heaven's sake, give it to each of the councils. Now that, of course, would absolutely massively annoy the SNP, but it would at least ensure that the people most in need of help and aid, the most vulnerable, are taken care of to some extent or other. And I think that's what's got to happen. You cannot just let these people use that money as a blackmail, as a leverage to force their view onto councils. They're taking their Hollywood, and I call it democracy, but it really isn't. But they're taking their Hollywood powers, and they're imposing them at a local level, where the locals are then having their local democracy annihilated because this government refuses to let them do what they want at a local level. This is the SNP destroying local autonomy. It is undemocratic. It is exactly what a Mr. H did in Germany. He removed all powers from the various federal bodies and coalesced it all at once, one monolithic power base. And that's what the SNP doing. They don't want local accountable democracy because local people may say no. And that is why Inverclyde and Argyll and Bute are brave, and they are right. Even if you don't agree with their politics, even if you did not vote for them, the fact is that they are standing up for local accountable democracy. And that is incredibly important. The SN government's plan for a national council tax freeze is in tatters after a second local authority pushed through a rise in the levy. Inverclyde Council voted for an 8.2% increase after Stephen McCabe accused ministers of bullying. And what you do with bullies, you stand up. And well done to McCabe. He said the government's conduct in trying to force through a freeze was shameful and vindictive. And the very bullying of you do this and you're not getting that. How dare they? How dare she sit there and withhold from people who need it all the help available simply because she does not agree with local democracy? People will suffer because of Shona Robinson's childlike tantrums. Councils and the government are at loggerheads over the call at SNP conference by Humza Yousaf for a freeze. His government has provided 147 million for the policy to be implemented, but nowhere near enough. Councils fear they've been shortchanged. They know they've been shortchanged. They know they needed somewhere in total of about £1 billion across all the councils. And they're getting a grand total now of about 205, I think it is. 205 million. Labour-run Inverclyde also voted for a rise after a meeting of the council. Mr McCabe, who leads the council, said the freeze policy was undemocratic, regressive and irrational. Well, it's regressive simply because it benefits the rich over the poor. It's undemocratic because it's removing what the local people have voted their council in to do and handed that power directly to Holyrood. And so it's like there's no local democracy. And it is irrational because they are deliberately harming people where they wouldn't. They say they don't want to, and yet that's what they're doing. And it's that sort of condescension between, you're too stupid to understand the bigger picture. Let us do this for you. Screw you, Shoney. You're too thick. Anyway, he said decisions on council tax should be for democratically elected local councillors, free from the coercion by the Scottish Government. The people who live in those areas are the ones who pay the council tax. It should be up to them to decide who their councillors are and let their councillors make those decisions. And if they don't like those decisions, they can vote their councillors out. If those decisions are made by a minister, they cannot vote that minister out. Not at a council level, you know? Anyway, after 17 years of bowing to Scottish Government pressure, enough is enough, he said. We've been dealing with a government and First Minister fixated on delivering a council tax freeze at all costs. They have been prepared to break the government's relationship with local government to achieve that end. Oh, the Verity House agreement is in tatters now. That's gone. That no longer exists. Humza Yousaf broke that when, like a dick, he stood on a stage and went, council tax freeze because my speech is shit. And everyone's like, what are you on about? No, don't, whatever. Because the man is so stupid. He wrote a rubbish speech and realised that there was nothing in it. It's a bit like his head. Anyway, he said they've been prepared to break that. He said they've been prepared to bully and intimidate individual councils to achieve that end. Experience has told me that if you don't stand up to bullies, they will continue to bully you. He added, Scottish councils are in a financial crisis and heading towards bankruptcy, like several councils in England, and a freeze deprives us of desperately needed income. Now, of course, nobody likes council tax. Nobody really wants to pay it. But on the other hand, you need the services. Some people need more. Some people need specialist care, and some people are vulnerable. They need care, and that's fine. You accept that in a decent society. But all of us need things like potholes repaired and bins emptied and things like that. So yes, pay a bit. I'm fine with that. I am fine with a contribution as to one's ability. I think that's fair. But when you're having an imposition by a government like this that wants to remove local democracy because they don't like it and have that centralised so that a minister who you have got you can't vote out. Shona Robison, you could be a councillor. Shona Robison is not your MP, your MSP. You can't vote her out. She could ultimately damage everything in your area, and you've got no democratic recourse to vote her out. Local councillors, you can go, didn't like what you did, bang, you're out. You've got that power. What you've got here is unaccountability. There is no accountability on Shona Robinson over these councils, and that's not democratic, that's dictatorship. Anyway, council tax has risen by an average of 1.1% in Inverclyde over the last 16 years, well below the average rate for inflation, which is a big reason why the council is facing a huge budget deficit. This cannot continue. Councils are at breaking point. Anti-poverty groups and trade unions have been hugely critical of the government over the council tax freeze, as indeed were the Greens, and yet they weren't so critical that they voted against it, because, they could vote against it on a matter of a matter of conscience, It's a policy. We don't like it. We're not going to vote for it. Boom. But what they do like even more is the ministerial salary. So no, they're not voting against it, are they? Scottish TUC General Secretary Ros Foyer said, Scottish Government's council tax freeze has made a bad problem worse, restricting revenue for crucial public services whilst disproportionately benefiting the rich. And that's the key. And that's the trouble when you have morons like her and Humza, the brains trust of Scotland, sitting there going, what should we do today? Duh. They are limited in their intellectual ability by the fact that they have very, very low IQs. Hers, probably around 86, possibly lower. His, might have hit 90. He's only very slightly brighter than her. But there's not a lot in it, is there? They're all dim or evil. Coming up. So, well done to Stephen McCabe, well done to Inverclyde Council, both standing up to the bullies of the SNP. Not that those two idiots, Humza Yousaf and Shelley Robison, will realise what's happened to them. They'll just sit there and sort of grind their teeth and stamp their little feet and go, why aren't they obeying us? Well, they're under no obligation to do so. And no matter how much you bully them, it will only make them reject anything faster. But you will find yourself in court quite soon if you withhold the funds that they are entitled to. I look forward to seeing that, as I'm sure indeed do you. Thank you very much for watching this one. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. I will speak to you later. Bye.